Hi guys. Oh my gosh, it feels like I'm doing a weather report or something. Good morning and welcome, and thank you to Chelsea. I wish that you were all here in person. We could all clap. The incomparable Chelsea Farrington, who did an awesome job at CN Live. That is a big stage, ladies and gentlemen, and she did awesome on that stage. She is our new MC and just keeps us on track here with our communication. So thank you, Chelsea, for that great introduction. I am here to talk about the Fish-On Marketing Flywheel. Many of you know me. I'm Katherine Gulick, Director of Marketing Services at Contractor Nation. And like Chelsea mentioned, we introduced this concept and this model at CN Live. We had a great time in our forum, and we talked about different business applications for this model of the flywheel. But what I wanted to do today was reintroduce the concepts of the flywheel, but also, you know, we've had some time now since September to think about it, think about its application. I've talked with some of you about, you know, how this might apply in your business, how it might apply for you as a marketer in terms of understanding what you're doing, your initiatives, your investment of time, resources, all those kinds of great things. So I'm excited to reintroduce the flywheel and add a few more anecdotes and some stories that hopefully will really empower you as marketers to do really great work in your business for growth and profitability and all those awesome results. So let's click over here to the Fish-On Flywheel. So before we get started about the flywheel specifically for us in our marketplace, I just want to talk about the concept of the flywheel. So why this is important is because it brings back into light the importance of a circle and the importance of the idea that we're pushing, investing, spending money, spending resources, time, energy, all those kinds of things. And we're investing all those things into our company. But what we're looking for as marketers, but also as people that are just very much focused on growth for our companies, is we're looking to get that momentum, right? So that every investment that we make of our time, energy, resource, et cetera, returns a momentum to the business. And then that momentum helps the business grow exponentially. And now we have a business that's profitable, that's growing. Now we stay employed, right? Our colleagues stay employed. Maybe we hire more people. We help more homeowners in the marketplace. We install more products. And that's how a business grows. So the flywheel is this great concept that, you know, many people in marketing, but also in business are sort of taking on. Jeff Bezos has famously drawn out a marketing flywheel or a flywheel for his business. HubSpot also was in this space talking about flywheels and the importance of flywheels. They thought of it as sort of the death of the marketing funnel and how now the flywheel is more impactful. And we would agree with that. And what we wanted to do is take all those concepts about the flywheel and that investment of energy and momentum and apply it for us in our businesses. Because we know we're very unique, we're a niche business, and we talk with homeowners and we service homeowners, but what investments can we make to get that return to really build that momentum? And so we put all these concepts together, many of us here at CN Live, and we came up with the Fish-On Flywheel. So a flywheel that applies for us. So I'm going to explain a little bit about all these different pieces that we have in our flywheel. So let's see. We introduced this idea of the customer band on the outside of our diagram. So we're going to talk about how the customer works their way through our business, right, through our service. And you'll see that we'll talk about how we can illustrate them and really understand exactly their journey and how we can impact that journey. And then the band on the inside is what I'm calling the action band. So if we take those concepts of the customer working their way through our business, what are the real action items that we can focus on as marketers in terms of really gaining that momentum and gaining that investment? And then in the middle, we'll talk about our marketing tactics. So we want to be as impactful as we can with our marketing and our tactics, make sure we're as optimized as possible. So in the middle, I'm putting all of our marketing tactics, and that becomes our little motor, right? That drives everything and drives the rest of the flywheel. So let's dig in here. So imagine that our businesses, if you distill it down, what we're really doing is we're taking strangers, perfectly good strangers who are living their lives, right? Don't think that they ever have to interact with our businesses at all. But unfortunately, they discover a problem in their home and they need our services. So to us, they are perfectly good strangers, right? They really don't have any reason to connect with us necessarily. But what we need to do is turn them into prospects. We need to get them on the hook, and we need to get them interested in our business. All sorts of different ways, of course. Do we service the problem that they have? Are we reputable? And all those pieces that we talk about in our branding. But in terms of that journey, we need to turn our strangers into prospects. And from prospects, of course, convert them into customers, because ultimately we get paid when the work gets put into the ground, when our prospects turn into customers, and now we can get that return and we get paid, right? So we know that's very important. And if you go back to the sort of the funnel concept, this is where really the funnel sort of ends. This idea that you, yes, bring in a large funnel of people and you turn them into paying customers. Now there are models of the funnel, excuse me, where customers are pushed back into the top of the funnel. But what we like about this flywheel concept and the idea of the cycle and the circle is that idea that it really helps you visualize the momentum that you can build. So from customers, we want to make sure we turn them into champions, because the champions in turn are going to help us bring in more strangers. So one way to think about this is if you think about the investment that you make in a customer, right? So tomorrow morning, like Chelsea talked about, we're going to talk about some of the basics of our marketing and our KPIs, but we have an allowable cost per lead, the amount that we invest in our lead generation, and then we have the average dollar per lead, the amount on average that a company makes for every lead. So imagine that you spend, say, $200 on a lead for an average dollar return of $2,000. So every time you bring in a lead, your company is going to make $2,000 on average, right? We know there's highs and lows and everything in between. But imagine if your customer turns into a champion who then champions your business to other strangers without you doing anything necessarily. We talk about referral programs and reviews, et cetera, but if we can champion them and inspire them to be champions of our business, then imagine that they turn around and tell 3 of their friends. Now you have an opportunity to make another $2,000 for friend 1, an additional $2,000 for friend 2, an additional $2,000 for friend 3. So if you think about it that way, your first investment of $200 to buy that lead has now turned into this opportunity that's threefold, right? $2,000 to $6,000. So now you can see how that compound effect is really important. And this is so much what we talk about in our training, in our marketing, in our sales, everything about gaining referrals, gaining reviews. And so you can see how this flywheel really gives us that model and that image, that visualization of that. Hope that makes sense. All right, so if we distill the action band, what I'm calling the action band, from strangers to prospects, what we need to focus on is attracting them, right? This is going to get into, brand, trust, professionalism, credibility, all those things, but we need to attract them. We need them to know that we do the service that they're looking for in their marketplace, and we need to attract them into our business. Then, of course, we need to convert them. We're good at converting, right? All of us have talked so much about converting. We know it's an appointment center thing, it's a sales thing, it's a production. We have really, really good systems in place for converting our leads. So we're all really good at that. And then again, as we talked about before, we need to inspire them. And inspiring is what I believe we all do so well in this network. But again, we don't want to lose sight of that importance, right? In terms of that investment and that return and that momentum. But you think about wow service that's been in our world for 10 years or so, some of the beautiful language that SupportWorks has come out with around redefine and remarkable experience, really impactful stuff that reminds us how important it is to inspire our customers and deliver an experience that is so remarkable and so wow that they're inspired. And again, they help bring strangers back into our business because now they're doing the work for you. So now you can see how that momentum builds. So that's the outside sort of rings of our flywheel. Imagine that this is constantly turning, constantly going through, returning that investment, gaining momentum, and like a flywheel, it starts to kick in. It starts to really catch. If you think about the dealers in our networks who are quite large and have, big sales goals, big sales numbers, and a lot of referrals coming into their businesses, they have been in business for a long time, but they also do a lot of work and they push and push and push to create a whole database of champions that are inspired to talk about their company. So they've basically created brand ambassadors, right? So we know that's vitally important. So let's dig into the middle. So the middle is where we as marketers want to focus, right? This is where we're going to invest all of our energy and really, really make sure we have all of our tactics optimized. We're talking to all sorts of different customers in all sorts of different ways, in different media that they might be consuming, with the messages that they're looking for, with the tone and the style. And we just optimize our marketing tactics so that effectively we have this lovely little, ball of fire and energy in the middle of our flywheel, helping to power that cycle through. So in the middle, if you imagine that you have all these different tactics that you're doing and we put them into that circle, we can start to divide them into different categories. And this will help us simplify and give a sense of that media and the media messages. So outbound, think about all the activities that you do that are outbound in nature, right? That sort of are outbounding your message, screaming out, announcing to the world. So these are tactics that are usually interruptive, right? I'm going to send my message out to the world. I'm going to find the customers out there, and I'm going to, think of a tone and style and hit that note that really helps to gain attention, because our customers in the outbound world, they're just living their lives, right? So I need to make sure I'm disruptive a little bit and I'm memorable and I can cut through the noise. So we have our outbound tactics, and then we have some inbound tactics. Now, inbound is much more like a storefront. We talked about this at CN Live, and this is a great way of thinking about it. It's like a storefront, right? You set up this really nice store and you're hanging out in your store and you're hoping people come in. And when they come in, inbound, they find all this great content. They find, to use the analogy of the store, they find all the sizes they want, the colors they want, that maybe it's a fit, it's a style, those types of things. So from, our point of view in terms of marketing our businesses, we have to have all that great content. And if you think about all that initiative and all the push that we put on widgets, that's where that comes from, because we need to make sure we have all the content that they're looking for. Is it a health issue? Is it a peace of mind? Is it investing in my home? Is it selling my home? All those different pieces, and that's why the widgets are so important. So we have outbound and inbound tactics, and then we have offline. So traditional media, right? TV, radio, all the sort of traditionals out there. And typically this is going to get us into a little bit of an older demographic, some disposable income, own their homes for a while, but that's okay. This is part of optimizing that mix. So we want to make sure we hit the offline. And then of course online. And this is where the crazy explosion in marketing has happened really over the last 15 to 10 years of all this online activity, internet, apps, mobile, all that kind of good stuff. Many of you are native to this world, but believe me, once upon a time, we didn't have online. Shouldn't date myself, but we just need to remember that we want to hit all of those elements and all of the different types of customers that would lead us to. So if we put those 4 quadrants together, you can see that we have these different categories: outbound offline, outbound online, working our way around the circle here, inbound online, and inbound offline. And then we can start to really think about how we might change our message, how we might change the tone and style, the different types of people that we're going to approach. And now we can think about the different ways that we create our branding, create our content. So for outbound offline, what I like to think about in terms of just a sort of a sticky way to remember this is we're going to spread the word, right? We're going to let everybody know what we do. We're going to talk about branding here in a little bit with Kevin, and we talk so much about being clear about telling customers what you do, making sure they understand all the services that you offer. So spreading the word, get out there, be disruptive a little bit, interrupt their day, tell them everything that you do. In this quadrant, we're going to do it in an offline kind of way. So this will be TV, radio, the traditionals, right? Moving over to the other quadrant here on the top right, our outbound online. Shout it out, and we're going to shout it out online. So this is where we're going to put, social media advertising, OTT, connected TV, all those new fancy terms for basically people watching TV in a kind of a traditional sense, but now watching it on streaming devices. So Hulu, YouTube, all those kinds of great things. This is where Brand Blaster has had a lot of great success, and John Taylor will be here a little bit later to talk about Brand Blaster. But even if you're not doing, Brand Blaster with us, I hope you're taking some initiative to learn more and more about advertising on social, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So important. And there's so many people that are, of course, moving to this quadrant and using these kind of media. And if we move around down to the side here, to the bottom right, inbound online. So our customers are coming to us. Again, I mentioned this before. This is our website, our apps, our mobile apps, those types of things. We're creating incredible content for them. And because of the availability of digital space and the iterations that we can show, there's just an unlimited amount of content that we can create. Of course, if you get really extreme, you talk about content bloat, those types of things, but we have a long way to go before we get there. And this, again, widgets, city pages, right? Making sure that when customers come inbound to our online media and our online properties, that they're finding the content they're looking for. And they look for all sorts of different ways. This is where sort of the fact that we're dealing with humans and all the different things they're looking for is so important. And so again, back to widgets, blogs, case studies, before and after, photos, reviews, and all those things that make that such an important experience for them. And so my shortcut for this quadrant is be found, right? Make sure that you're found. And of course, Molly will be here later to talk about PPC. Being found is, of course, a big PPC game, but it is still that sense that you're waiting for that inbound traffic. You're going to be found. And the PPC is sort of a trickery to that, but ultimately someone's going to land on your website. And inbound offline. So our little catchphrase for inbound offline is build a reputation. So I think of inbound offline as sort of the almost like a yellow pages, right? Just let people know about you, build a reputation, be reputable, inspire your customers, help them disseminate and do your marketing for you by being inspired themselves and then inspiring other strangers to turn into customers and work that flywheel. So building a reputation has everything to do with being reputable, your BBB, all the different things that make you just a great company to work with. You answer the phone politely, you have foremen that are really well trained, you have really nice looking branding, you're clean, you go above and beyond. All those sort of, intangibles that make a customer feel that wow experience, feel inspired, and then help push that flywheel along. So those are our 4 quadrants in a very short nutshell. We spent about 2 hours talking about this at CN Live, so I am moving pretty quickly around all of this, but I'm excited to reintroduce this idea, and I think there's so much that we can do about understanding where our customers are, what media they're digesting, where they're looking for their messages, what type of messaging, what type of content they're looking for, and then understanding how this concept of the flywheel and gaining that momentum is so important, because if we can get that momentum on our side, then we don't have to push as hard, right? If you think about the bicycle wheel or the wheel, you don't have to push as hard once you get the momentum going. So that's what I want for all of us. So I'll land on this final slide, which is going to look very, very busy probably this morning. But this is a slide that represents all of the resources that we have available. All these little boxes represent different widgets, maybe different apps, different concepts, brochures, those types of things. We wanted to make sure we understood for ourselves also to understand our resource and our ecosystem that we have available for you, but also for yourselves. If there's a piece in here that you're not using that you could take advantage of, please reach out. Or if there's something else that we could add to this, this is a working document, as I like to say. I think there's so much that we can all share around this to make this something very impactful and to make it a model that we can all use. So there are, like I said, there's resources in each one of these quadrants. And of course, in the end, everything comes together. Everything is that marketing mix. Everything is that optimized sense of marketing tactics. And then once we are optimized, then our flywheel really kicks in. So that's the flywheel in a very quick 20-minute nutshell. And I really appreciate having the time to talk to some of you about it and get some feedback on how this can apply to your businesses, how you could see using this, and how you can, even use it to look at your CRM and your business model and understand where maybe your marketing messages are not hitting all those different venues. So for example, we see a lot of marketers in our network that are heavily on the internet, very, very dependent on the website, very, very dependent on the treehouse, which is great, and we appreciate the business. But right away, you can imagine these quadrants. If you're heavy on one side, it gives you very clearly the opportunity to think about all the other quadrants that you could hit and make sure that your message is seen by everybody, and then really get that marketing mix dialed in. So stand by for more Flywheel. We'll be talking about this a lot over the next year or so to come. And like I mentioned, this is a working document. If you have any input, suggestions, comments, etc., I'm open here for a little bit. I believe I have a question slide open if anyone would like to ask some questions. And yes. Can you help me identify where the opportunity for me is? Not sure who me, I'm assuming me is a marketing manager. So as a marketing manager, I think two things. One, concentrate on this center. Make sure you have all of your marketing tactics optimized. You're talking to all the different demographics in your marketplace, in all the different media, with the tone and the style of the messaging that fits that media. You're going to talk differently, for example, in your case study on your website than you will on a truck. So we want to make sure we're hitting all of our messages accurately for all of those different quadrants. Now we have a marketing mix that's optimized, and then we can start talking and concentrating on making sure that all the sort of the customer journey, the outside of the flywheel, is as optimized as possible. So we talk a lot about going to sales meeting, going to production meetings, even sharing this idea with your owner. I mean, if you use that example that I gave about the investment of one lead turning into, you know, one chunk of average dollar per lead, but now that person goes out and, you know, brand ambassador and gets other strangers to come into your business, that opportunity of that one customer is exponential. And so I think if you could share these ideas even with, you know, your managers, like I mentioned, GM, owner, so that we understand every customer has that impact on our business, not just for the product that we put into the ground in their home, but for the options and that compound effect that they would bring into our business for all the other business that they can bring in. And then we kick in with the flywheel. So I hope that explains. Thank you for that question. And how am I doing on time here? Doing good? Okay. So if anyone else has any questions, right here on the screen. And if not, then, oh, something just jumped in. Hi, Chris. It is very odd to talk to a black camera, I have to say, but I really appreciate everybody joining today. And quick hello to all of you. Wish we could see each other in person, but you have to admit this webinar format is pretty fun, right? So we'll be sending out a survey at the end. We'd love to hear your thoughts. We love the idea that so many of you can join us, so we hope you like it too. And will the slides be available after the class? Yes, we will make the slides available. And by the end of the day, we'll have a decision as to where they're available, probably on the webinars page. I'm looking, Caitlin off camera here is nodding. So on our webinars page, we'll have the slides available. So great. Where is the best place to find the resource? In FileHive, yes. So the resource of the flywheel with all those resources in the quadrants we'll make available on FileHive. So great. Thank you guys for all your questions.